Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests, to this Toastmasters Town Hall. In this session, the Toastmasters International Executive Committee will answer questions about Proposal A and Proposal B that will be voted on at the International Convention this year, as well as a couple of other questions about other Toastmasters topics. Please join me in welcoming the Toastmasters International Executive Committee distinguished Toastmasters all. Immediate past International President, Lark Doley. Second Vice President, Matt Kinsey. First Vice President, Margaret Page. International President-elect, Richard E. Peck. And our International President, Deepak Menon. Thank you, members of the panel, for being here and being willing to answer these questions. Let's jump right in and start with Proposal A. Richard, can you summarize Proposal A for us?
Well, thanks, Dan. I see we're jumping right into it tonight with no delays and no softballs. Proposal A is an amendment to the bylaws of Toastmasters International, and it was proposed by the Board of Directors. That's the reason why it needs to go to the voting body for approval. The proposed amendment would increase the maximum percentage from 15% to 20% of the Toastmasters clubs that could compose one region. If approved, the size of the board would remain the same, with 2 international directors serving from each of 7 regions. The international directors would continue to serve staggered terms per region to promote continuity of knowledge. As a result of these changes, the ILC, or the International Leadership Committee, may potentially have a much larger pool of candidates per region to evaluate. If adopted, this new structure would be in place starting July 1 of 2021, and all governing documents would be amended as appropriate. Back to you, Dan.
Thanks very much, Richard. What's some of the board's additional reasoning in believing that the bylaws need to be amended in this way?
And so Proposal A is the start of an ongoing strategy to improve our leadership development throughout the organization. It's been something that's been on the board's mind for a number of years now, and it just so happens that they're starting to fall into step. The board recently spent a lot of time reviewing the roles and responsibilities of the club and district officers. We've also looked at evaluation systems that would help these leaders continue to develop their skills through their leadership journey. Together with Proposal A, these initiatives would improve leader development throughout the organization, from club level to director. Strong leaders at all levels, including the board, will result in an organization that will better support clubs and members. And in these times, that is what our organization needs. Additionally, having 2 international directors per region will strengthen the board's knowledge and needs of that region. This information will help the board when making decisions on how to best support members within the region and globally. These are just a few reasons as to why the board feels that Proposal A is important and should be approved. Back to you, Dan.
Thanks very much, Richard. You can catch your breath, take a little break now. Deepak, your turn. And I'm going to some of the questions that Toastmasters leaders from around the world sent in. This one says, some have said that this proposal would mean that each year international directors would be assigned to regions and then they may not live in or be from the region from which they were elected.
So the answer is a partial yes and an emphatic no. Partial yes, because in the first year that this would become operational, assuming that Proposal A is passed at the annual business meeting, would be August 2021, when the new international directors are going to be elected from these new 7 regions. At that time, there will be these 7 continuing international directors from the preceding methodology that we have, that is the 14 regions, and 7 of those from the 7 regions as we have currently will be continuing onwards. At that time, the international president of the day will be identifying which of those international directors will be assigned to the new regions. But come August 2022, the international directors who would have been elected from the 7 regions in August 21 will be the continuing international directors. They will serve from those same regions. And you will be electing new international directors from the 7 regions that would be there. So there would be no question of any further assignment by the international president. Consequently, the international directors will continue to serve from the regions that they were elected, and they will continue to reside in the places that they were elected from, unless, of course, they make a choice of moving out from the place where they were elected from. That is something that will be dependent on their intentions.
Sure. Thank you very much, Deepak. Lark, this next question is for you. What does the organization believe the additional cost could be for 2 directors from the same region? And one of those regions that spans from Europe down to the tip of Africa is pretty large.
I'm not sure why you're asking me a financial question. This probably should go to our financial president, but I'm happy to take it. I'd like to start with the region advisors first. I actually believe that the travel expenses for region advisors will decrease. Why do I say that? Well, region advisors will have districts more evenly distributed with this larger geographic territory. So now we have some region advisors that serve 4 districts, other region advisors that serve 8 districts. But with this new regional alignment, every region advisor should have anywhere from 6 to 7 districts to serve. And there should be fewer region advisors in that case. So I actually think that the regional travel will decrease. Now, let's look at international directors. All right, so now Region 11 currently has an international director from South Africa, and she travels to Saudi Arabia to visit the districts there when there's no COVID, of course. Well, that expensive travel is going to be no different than traveling from South Africa to Europe. So again, I don't think there's going to be an appreciable difference in travel expenses with Proposal A.
Thank you very much, Lark. Richard, I think you've had a good enough rest. Let's get back to you. The boundaries for the regions were modified only 3 years ago. This is a question from a Toastmaster leader. What's the need that's causing the board to propose this change and change the region boundaries again?
You know, Dan, you and I are going to have a long conversation in the future about what a length of rest actually means. And we're going to be working shoulder to shoulder in the next year to figure that out. I wish I had a time machine to go back 3 years ago and put everybody back in the environment and the world that we were in then. Because when the board made the decision to change the boundaries 3 years ago, it was the right decision at the right time. But during the 3 years since then, the world has changed. The organization has changed. And more importantly, the needs of our members have changed. A greater level of support is needed now more than ever. Expanding the geographic area covered by each region will allow the international directors to be exposed to a greater number of global perspectives and gain more depth of understanding of the needs of our members. Their interactions with district leaders will provide the board with the necessary information to make well-informed decisions as we move towards the future. Additionally, international director candidates will not have to wait for a specific year to run for the board of directors. They will be able to run when they are ready to continue their leadership journey. This could result in more members seeking the opportunity for the international director role and an expanded pool of candidates for the voting membership to consider in the annual business meeting. For these reasons alone, expanding the geographic boundaries at this time makes good organizational sense. Dan, back to you.
Thank you very much, Richard. And Matt, you're up. Richard just mentioned an expanded number of candidates, and we got a couple of questions relating to that, not understanding how there could possibly be more candidates. There are no more people in the world. So how is this expanded number of candidates going to work?
Well, thank you, Dan. The first thing I think about is something that Richard just mentioned, allowing members to choose when it's the right time for them to continue their leadership journey and declare their intent to run for international director on an annual basis rather than tied to a 2-year cycle. I think that the number of people who are going to apply will be increased. Sometimes life circumstances make it difficult to run in the currently assigned year, but giving candidates the flexibility to choose when it's the right time for them, I think more people will step forward. Secondly, as each region increases the number of districts covered, there's a larger pool of eligible candidates available for each region on an annual basis. This will allow the International Leadership Committee and you, our voting members, increased choice when it comes to candidates for office. Dan, thank you.
Thanks very much, Matt. You're not off the hook yet. Got one more for you here. The international director for my region, does that person represent me? How does that all work?
Dan, international directors are elected from a region to represent all members globally. That is why the entire membership votes on each international director. If we had an advocacy form of governance, such as a national or local government, then international directors would be elected only by members of the region from which they will be serving. When I originally ran for international director, I was speaking with the past international president. I made a comment that I was a candidate for Region 8. And immediately the past international president said, no, you're not. You're a candidate from Region 8. That comment has stayed with me ever since, and it's impacted my thinking in a positive way. Really what we want is for each board member to make decisions based on what is best for the global organization and for our membership as a whole. In fact, board members are expected to not advocate on behalf of any group of members or region. Instead, we want them to bring the perspective of the members in that region that they were elected from so that all board members can make informed decisions. If you think about it, you will actually be more represented on the board with 2 members on the board familiar with the challenges, the concerns, the celebrations from your region. Your perspective will actually have a larger voice.
Thank you, Matt. Well, Margaret, I don't know if you're feeling like you were going to miss these questions, but we have one for you. This is a question we received from quite a few members. How are speech contests going to work under this Proposal A environment?
Good question, and near and dear to many members' hearts for sure is the speech contest. Well, the board still has this under review. We definitely want to make the best decision for our members around the globe on this particular issue. We have a couple options, of course. We could run contests the way we're doing it currently in the regions and then just double it. So instead of 2 candidates going forward, there could be 4 candidates. Alternatively, we could do it very similar to the way we've always done the semifinals, which is a random draw of perhaps 8 districts, 9 districts together and pool them. So you'd never know who you're competing with. We have to do the research and really understand what would best serve our members around the globe. Thank you for that, Dan.
Thank you, Margaret. All right, Deepak, Mr. International President, back to you. You're not off the hook yet. Currently, region advisors, there are typically 2 of them per region, and they serve as a number of districts. Well, in this new model, does that mean that the region advisors are suddenly going to have dramatically more districts, or just how is that going to work?
Thank you very much, Dan. So I know I'm not going to be off the hook for at least another 1 month, but right now the question that you've posed to me about the number of region advisors who are going to be serving in the new regions. The fact is that even today we have some regions where we have only 1 region advisor, some where there are 2. In the new formation, there will certainly be 2 at least, and there will probably be more. As Lark mentioned earlier in one of the questions that you had posed to her, there will be as many region advisors as are required by the districts in that region, and that will be for the region advisor selection committee to decide as to how many region advisors need to be appointed to serve the districts in that particular region. But I can certainly guarantee that there will be at least 2, if not more, region advisors serving each region. So there will absolutely be no case where districts feel that they are underserved or that are not being looked after in the new region composition.
Excellent. And I guess correspondingly to that, region advisors aren't going to be put in a position where they have so many districts that they're either completely overworked or can't possibly manage the role.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, thank you, fellow Toastmasters, for the questions that you have submitted related to Proposal A. We're now going to move on to Proposal B, and to give us the background on this, Margaret Page.
Thank you, Dan. Proposal B is an amendment to the bylaws of Toastmaster International. And when conducting a disciplinary hearing, it's important that the board or the International Disciplinary Committee, when authorized by the board, have sufficient time to conduct effective due diligence when reviewing information provided by a charge member. The amount of information provided by a charge member can vary greatly. In order to ensure there is enough time to review all materials before the hearing, the board proposes that the bylaws of Toastmaster International, Article 3, Section 13D, be amended to require that information from the charge member be submitted 96 hours before the hearing. The current requirement is 48 hours.
Thank you, Margaret. Can you give us some more reasoning and background on why the board believes this change should happen?
Yes, well, certainly we're an international board now and in 143 countries around the world. And so often board members and committee members are from around the globe. And so we need that for the time difference. Also, sometimes when members send in information, additional research is required. And so that gives those members the time to do that research, do that due diligence to make the best decision, not only for the organization, the members, but for the charge members as well. So they need the time to make a good decision.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Margaret. Matt, you've been on the International Disciplinary Committee. Can you answer this question from a member? What types of offenses qualify for an international level disciplinary action?
Well, Dan, we don't have all day to go through an exhaustive list, but it generally occurs when there are items that a club or district just is not equipped to address and requires intervention at the international level. The most common scenario is when a member's disruptive behavior has extended across multiple clubs or even districts. For example, if a member is removed by a club properly according to the guidelines in Protocol 3, joins another club, and then repeats the behavior, we may need to take action at the international level to protect our members, to make sure that this member isn't given the opportunity to continue that behavior in club after club after club. A second type of alleged violation is repetitive misuse of Toastmasters intellectual property, our programs, our copyrights, our trademarks, or use of our intellectual property for profit. And the final class of action stems from severe violations of Toastmasters governing documents which have persisted without being addressed at other levels of the organization. In these cases, we must act at the international level to safeguard both our organization and our members.
Thank you very much, Matt. Lark, this next member question is for you. The proposal seems reasonable, but what are the challenges that the committee has experienced with 48 hours that require this kind of extension, and why do they think 96 hours will be enough?
Thank you so much, Dan. The notice of hearing to the charged member is sent 20 days before the hearing. But on a recent case, World Headquarters received 156 pages of documentation from a charged member, and the disciplinary committee only had 48 hours to review 156 pages. Now, I don't know about you, but I am not a speed reader, and that would have been a struggle for me as a member of the disciplinary committee. We want to be sure that the charge member has appropriate time to prepare the documentation related to the charges against them. But we also need to be sure that we give the committee adequate time to review that information. We have gone from 48 hours to 96 hours. So we are doubling the amount of time given to the committee to review the charged member's information. And we believe that that will be adequate time. Thank you, Dan.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Deepak, Mr. International President, back to you. Another question from a member. How common are these disciplinary hearings? They seem quite rare to me. Does Proposal B change something that happens with any degree of frequency?
Thank you for that question. If one looks at it, the only body that can actually remove a member from good standing from the organization is the International Board of Directors. And fortunately, that's not a very common occurrence. It is only when, as Matt described, very egregious violations that occur that matters come up to the Board of Directors and are then referred to either the International Disciplinary Committee or handled by the Board of Directors themselves. In the past, we've not had very many cases coming up to the board for such action, and I do not expect that that will happen anytime soon again, despite this change. And this change only helps the International Disciplinary Committee or the Board of Directors, as the case may be, to review the information that is received in defense from the charged individual. And therefore, it just ensures that we're able to take better decisions and not just decisions on the fly based on this research that will be available, or this time for research that will be available to the committee or to the board.
Excellent. Thank you, Deepak. And with that question, we close discussion on Proposal B. Now, we have a couple more questions that we'll work through, and then we'll have an opportunity for each member of the executive committee to say something to close out the meeting related to our discussion here tonight. In my experience, when we give Toastmasters the opportunity to send in questions related to specific topics, inevitably, they also send in questions that are completely unrelated to those topics. And we will now proceed to just a couple of those questions. This first one goes to Margaret, and this is an administrative matter. When do we anticipate that individual members will be able to renew their dues online?
Thank you for that, Dan. It's a real shame that we're not all meeting in person, because I think we'd hear a collective cheer throughout the auditorium here. But we anticipate that that will be happening the third quarter of 2021. So the September-October dues period is when we anticipate that that will be a possibility.
Excellent. Thank you very much. The next question, and this one is for Matt. When will there be an evolution to the Speechcraft course that will more closely align it to pathways?
Well, Dan, I'm happy to share with the members that the Speechcraft update is well underway. The board received an update at the March board meeting, and we eagerly wait the update to be delivered. The new version aligns very well with pathways and also provides clear guidance as to the educational credits that participants will receive should they decide to join a club upon their graduation. Based on what's already been completed and what still remains, we expect that the new version of Speechcraft will launch early in 2021.
Very good. Thank you so much for that information. I know that I get questions about that all the time. I think it's good to have that information out there in the membership. Deepak, we're going to come back to you on the next one. This one says, when and where might I learn more about the process, programs, and uptake by Rotary Club members to be better and more effective communicators?
Thank you, Dan. I have been to many Rotary Club meetings now, which have been organized by Rotarians for Toastmasters, and many Toastmasters meetings where Rotarians have been invited. So this alliance is clearly underway and right from the grassroots level. Information about this alliance can be found on the Rotary page of the Toastmasters International website, which all of you members are aware is toastmasters.org. And you can also find information on the Rotary International website, which is rotary.org. And you can find this information through the Learning Center, if you're a Rotarian, on the Rotary International website. There are many courses currently which are being offered on the Rotary International website, which have been provided by Toastmasters for the Rotarians and the Rotaractors, and has already received a lot of uptake and appreciation by these members. So there's lots of information already available, and I urge you all to go and check it out. And this is very exciting and very interesting to see.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you very much. We are indeed excited about the alliance with Rotary International and the goodness for both organizations that has come from this alliance. The next question is to Lark. This one says, our tagline is where leaders are made. If that's the organization's tagline, why is it that we still have such a problem finding leaders for different levels of the organization?
Well, Dan, I'm available at the end of August. My term ends then. But seriously, this question implies that we are having a global leadership problem at all levels. And I don't really believe that that is accurate. So during my worldwide travels last year, I found many clubs and districts where members were standing in line to become leaders. And when we think about our different leadership levels within the organization, we have over 100,000 members serving in leadership roles in any given year. So to me, that certainly demonstrates that we are an organization that makes leaders. But let me go a little bit further here. Can we do more to promote leadership and to groom future leaders? Absolutely. We're an organization that believes in continuous improvement, so we can continue to improve. But think about some of the actions over the last years. Pathways has integrated communication and leadership skills development. Over 300 competencies within our Pathways program. We have identified mentoring as a part of Pathways, and every leader at every level should have a mentor. We continue to improve our training at every level of leadership within our organization. And by the way, if you attend the board briefing, you may hear more about leadership development and improvement. But it is truly our responsibility, each of us, to find new leaders. So what is the best way to find new members? For each member to ask another individual who is not a member to become one. Well, guess what? That is the best way to find leaders. And it is our responsibility to pick out leaders within our clubs, our areas, our divisions, our districts. It is our personal responsibility to do that. And I think it was a world champion that said something about, if you see something, then you should tell them that. So I urge all of us to help our whole organization find and groom new leaders. Well, what else can we do? We can approve Proposal A so that members around the globe have the opportunity to run for election to our international board every single year. Back to you, Dan.
Lark, thank you so much for setting the record straight and for giving us some very practical tips for ensuring that as leaders, we have replacements coming behind us to fill those leadership roles. Well, that wraps up the formal questions part of this town hall, and we'll close up the meeting with a closing statement from everyone. Your chance to give a shout out to the Toastmasters world who is watching us in this town hall meeting. Let's start with International President Deepak Menon.
Thank you very much, Dan. I kind of expected that I'm going to be the first to be asked this. So people have been telling me this has been an unusual year and I've been an unusual president. Well, yeah, it's been a trifle unusual, as most people know. And the fact is that in the coming years, we will continue to face challenges as we come out of this pandemic. And these are times when we need leadership to be extremely strong, to be confident, to be brave, to be courageous, to be compassionate. And we need strong leaders on the board of directors. And we need strong leaders in our districts and in our clubs who are able to see and tackle the situation that we're dealing with. And thus, Proposal A speaks to that need to ensure that we're able to meet these challenges more effectively, to make our organization so much more stronger than it has ever been before. We're coming to the 100th year of this organization. We're going to be celebrating a centenary soon. We want this organization to live forever, not just for 100 years. And that's why we need to strengthen our leadership. We don't have a lack of leaders. We need stronger leaders. And I see that happening with Proposal A.
Thank you very much, Deepak. Richard, let's go to you now.
Why is it that I always have to follow Deepak when he gives these deeply inspirational conversations?
That is your challenge in life.
And Madam Past International President, I don't expect my phone calls to be going directly to voicemail on September 1st if I begin calling you. This has been a year in which we've seen tremendous growth in our members and our leaders. We've been lucky enough to have someone like Deepak guiding us through these choppy waters at this time and setting examples for the future. As I look back, I've seen individuals who have grown in leadership this year, who have stepped well beyond what they ever thought they could. I've seen individuals standing on the sidelines, waiting to take up the mantle of leadership. And for some, they'll be able to this year. For others, they would have to wait an additional timeline. Proposal A will allow leaders to run when they're ready to run. I remember when I ran for ID, the individual I was running against only lost by a few hundred votes. That said that the organization believed in him, that the members believed in him. Yet it would be 2 years before he could run again. If he had had the opportunity back then, I know he would have run the next year. And that's what Proposal A is going to allow us to do. It's not going to cause individuals who want to step into leadership to be pushed aside by an additional year. It will allow them to step up when they're ready to step up. Back to you, Dan.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate those comments. Margaret Page.
Yes, and now I get to follow Deepak and Richard. My goodness, double the pressure, right? It has been, of course, an unusual year for us all, but what has been exciting is to see how we've been so resilient and so able to adapt to change quickly and rapidly, and how so many members are reaching around the globe to learn more about other districts and the way Toastmasters are doing it on other parts of the world. We've seen elevated levels in TLIs and district conferences, all that are going to serve us into the future and make sure the brave new world is strong. And I see this as well with Proposal A and the effects of Proposal B as well, that we'll be better able to serve our members because of that cross-pollination of ideas, because of that expansive effort on candidates as they continue their leadership journey. When I ran as an international director, I ran solo. No one was running at the same time as I was. And I think that's unfortunate for me and the organization, because if I was running, there were other people seeking the same position as I was, or I had been at that particular time. I think it would have elevated me even to do more and to reach out, have a greater understanding, and put additional effort in. And I think we owe it to our members to allow them to be as strong as they possibly can, and our organization deserves the best leadership. I agree with Deepak and Richard that we need Toastmasters to be strong. So I'll leave you with the message of our healthcare professional here in British Columbia that says, be kind, stay safe, and stay well. Back to you, Dan.
Thank you, Margaret, very much for those words. Matt Kinsey.
You know, Deepak and Richard and Margaret have said a lot about Proposal A, and I just really want to take a different tack because I want to talk to the members directly. You guys have amazed me this year. If you had told me in August when I was running for second vice president that our organization could have pivoted in 60 days to get 75 to 80% of our clubs meeting online globally, I would not have believed you because our history had not shown that we had that agility to do that. Our history had not shown that our board could be as agile as it had to be this year. And what that tells me is that we have the greatest strength in our organization in you who are on this call right now, because you came through this year, this last year, you maintained your commitment, your love for Toastmasters. And I can't wait to see what this group of leaders does when they serve as region advisors and when they're on the international board, because this resilience, this shared experience, I don't think we've ever had anything that was a shared experience like this that touched us globally. So we deserve to have the best leaders out there. And some of you are sitting in this room. And wouldn't you like to be able to choose when it's the right time for you to run based on what's going on in your life, your career, your development? That's why I support Proposal A, and I hope that you do as well.
Thank you very much, Matt. The Toastmasters community is indeed strong. And last but certainly not least, immediate past International President Lark Doley.
Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. And this year, I believe that, as Matt said, and as all of the officers have said, you have shown that you are the change that we need in our world today. This is my last town hall, but I will continue my leadership journey and my communication journey in this organization until my dying breath, and I hope all of you will too. This is a lifelong journey for each of us. You can be anything you want to be in this organization. I hope that you will take full advantage of all of the communication and leadership opportunities that this organization provides to you. Every moment has been golden. This year, we've been led by a courageous president, a stalwart CEO, and I hope that you agree that your board of directors has served you well. We thank you. I thank you. It has been pure gold. Mr. CEO.
Lark, thank you so very much for those words and for the heartfelt expressions. Well, members of the Executive Committee, this draws us to a close. Thank you, each of you, for being part of this town hall tonight. But I think most importantly, on behalf of a grateful organization, thank you for leading this organization through a very challenging year, a difficult year, an unprecedented year. And fellow Toastmasters and guests, thank you for attending this town hall event. We hope that you continue to attend all of the virtual convention events, and we look forward to seeing you during the next one.